Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 63 of the road to 2konchess.com. Today, we are staying at 1871, and we had a fairly quick draw yesterday. It looks like on today's date, we're going to play in 1896 from the Philippines. So let's start with e4 and see where our opponent wants to take the game. I guess our opponent's going to abort, so let's try again, and let's see what we get this time. So this time we get an 1864. From Ghana, and they're going to start with c4. Against c4, I still don't quite know what to do, so today we're just going to play a standard English, and we're going to copy. Against this move, I'm actually thinking I instead want to play maybe a developing move like knight to f6. Our opponent's going to strike back at the center, and if we take once, we're going to allow them the full center. I think in this position, I'm actually okay with that. So let's take here. Now I want to play d5 to stop them from pushing their d-pawn. So we'll play d5 here. And if they want to trade down, they certainly can. I don't see an immediate threat from all this. But otherwise, we're going to kind of continue on with somewhat standard development. And that's kind of an interesting move. What happens if we, excuse me, just play bishop to g4? I don't see an immediate threat here. And my idea is actually to go ahead and to try and win this pawn here on d4. Our opponent opts to go back. I think we can probably get away with playing a move like e6. And now if they jump into the center or they attack us, we could take, but then bishop takes, and this is quite strong. So here I think we're just going to play bishop to h5, keeping the pin. There's no knight to f4 ideas yet because the dark square bishop is still here. But maybe we have some ways to wrap around. Maybe like queen to b6 to target this center pawn. And target this pawn over here on b2. We've really been trying to make an effort to be less afraid of openings we don't know. And like here, queen to b6 just makes a lot of sense. They don't have this move. I mean, I suppose they do. What if we go here? They could take our knight, and then we have to take back with the pawn. So maybe we start with bishop to e7. Just a developing move, stopping the bishop from coming to g5. And I really don't hate this position for us at all. I think we've gotten out of the opening phase. We're entering the middle game phase a little bit. It's not a position we're like super comfortable in by any means, but I don't think it's an uncomfortable position. And there might actually be an argument for taking this knight soon to give them this backwards pawn. Well, I guess it's not a backwards pawn because we don't have a pawn on d5. But it's a weakness that we might be able to target. Now, when they do that, the immediate move that pops out is bishop captures e2. And if they want to take, they certainly can. A little bit interesting. This pawn is weak and potentially hanging in some lines. They opt to take our knight. Or, sorry, take our knight first. So what I'm tempted to do is play knight takes knight. If knight takes knight, I suppose they can run their queen out. So maybe we take here first. They have to take. Knight takes here, pawn takes, bishop back. Or actually bishop back. What do we do here? I'm going to take their queen. They can take ours. Now if I play knight takes knight, aren't we threatening this check? I guess this bishop is going to hang at the end line, isn't it? If we take back here, they take our bishop. So let's take here first. Knight captures c3. You can try and save this. I think this is the logical move. Excuse me, man. My throat is just incredibly dry today. It's really quite unfortunate. Now in this position, if we play bishop to e2, and the rook comes out, because I was trying to see if we can stop the knight from taking this pawn, and I don't think we can. Bishop to e2. If knight takes, is it all that bad? Maybe we go bishop to f3. And then if knight comes in, we take, they take, we castle. And we're down a pawn. So let's go with rook takes knight. Here, I think we're going to castle. And then I'm thinking rook to c8, rook to d8, and go from there. Now rook to c8, if they push, they're targeting this pawn. But let's just go ahead and target this, because it's the biggest weakness in the position. If they try and defend with the rook, we might play bishop to... They give it up. So what if we play b6 first? Are they going to play rook to b3? Is that their grand idea? Rook in, bishop back. If I go here, I think this is coming. Let's go rook to c4, followed by rook f to c8. We're trying to go after this c-pawn. The little opening explorer on chess.com says this is essentially a Caro-Kann-Panov defense, which I can see the structure. I have played the Panov a few times. Funnily enough, I've actually been preparing the Panov for one of my upcoming opponents in the Lee Chess Leagues group. So I have that game a little bit later from the day of recording. So I'm hoping that I can pull that one off. Our opponent goes back. Interesting. Maybe rook f to c8, like we talked about. The bishop comes back here. If we play h5, what about h6? Bishop here. Then there's f4. Oh man. How do we go after this pawn? I kind of like the idea of bishop to f6, just eyeing these pawns here. Our opponent plays a4. And if I play e5, our opponent can push. I think we're going to go for that just to try and get something going on the center. Our opponent probably wants to play their rook to a3 to defend. But I don't think that's the best defense of the pawn. I mean, obviously d5 is an idea. After d5, we can just play rook to d8, which should pick up the pawn. Our opponent pushes with a5. We have takes, takes. If we take once, their rook takes. So let's capture the e pawn. Sorry, capture the d pawn. They go there. If we go rook captures c1, bishop captures. I think they're losing a pawn. So now we can go with bishop captures d4. We're up a clean pawn. And my next moves are probably just going to be to activate the king, so we don't have back rank mate. I think if they take with the b pawn, we are probably going to take back with the bishop. And then potentially considering moves like rook to c2, putting even more pressure here on the f2 pawn. But unless I'm mistaken, I think this position is better for us. Which, after the last few games in the series, I'm really going to take anything I can get. Now here, if I go rook here, maybe I want to actually just play h6 now, make that luff for my king. Because there's ideas of, if I go too early with this idea, bishop is looking to come here. I don't see anything wrong with rook to c2. I think the idea is they're going to play bishop to g3. In here, if I play f4, f5, g5, and f4, that looks quite strong to me. They can try and stop me with h4, but it doesn't work fast enough. And now we just have this outside pass pawn. The rook comes in. We're going to play king to f7 to stop the infiltration. The rook comes here. I'm going to play the move g5. If they come in, I'm just going to move my king over, attack the rook. This is under attack, and we're threatening f4. And after f4, they can't even move the bishop back because of back rank mate. So they're in a little bit of a pickle here. I guess they could play rook to h7, but then I think we still play f4. And if rook takes pawn, king to f5. The bishop comes all the way back. I mean, I'm just going to take the rook. And our opponent, I mean, it looks like they'll probably resign here. You can't drop the full rook in this type of endgame and expect to survive. Our opponent goes there. I like the idea of actually just taking here with the discovery attack. Our opponent moves back. And what's to stop us just from pushing the pawn? I suppose you can go there. We're just going to push. Are you going to defend the promotion square? Okay. Thanks for the bishop. I'm going to come here. Play G captures. If they push, I'm just going to push up. Let's put them in a little box. And our opponent resigns. So, excellent win. We move up to 1879. Let's look at the game review. So, for today's date, we played with an 86.4 and our opponent played with a 75.3. Out of the opening c4, we just opted to play in English where we essentially mirror our opponent. After d4, c captures, e captures. The advantage is slightly to them, but we did strike back with d5. C captures d5. I suppose we transpose back into some English theory. After knight f3, bishop g4, bishop e2, and e6, we are back to kind of a standard position. Now, the engine, like I said, says that this is a Caro-Kann-Panov defense, where the Panov is actually typically reached after e4, c6, d4, d5, takes, and the move c4. I don't fully know how this is transposing. I assume it's probably due to some line like this, where after we play maybe e6, they have takes, knight takes, and the position is similar-ish to what we got in the game. But alas, we get to this position here. h3, we moved our bishop back. We played bishop to e7, took off their bishop, and this is where we went to a giant trade sequence, is they found knight captures c6 first, which is going to end up dropping a pawn at the end of the line. After quite some time, we looked at bishop captures d1. Now, the move I was looking at, and apparently is the best way to go about it, is knight captures c3, attacking the queen. However, what I didn't like in this position is I didn't like the move queen to c2, which I didn't fully understand what it does. I think here, what it actually wants us to do is just to go ahead and probably play queen to c7 on our own, or maybe we take the knight. Ah, I see. And then we're just simply up a piece because these two pieces are still under attack. But knight captures d8. We played knight captures c3 first. B captures c3, and we missed the idea here where we were looking at bishop to e2. I didn't know what the continuation is after rook to e1, and I suppose at this point it actually leads to bishop to a6, which is then how we stop the knight from getting out, kind of like we were talking about in the position. We did miss that, however, and we went to a pretty equal endgame where we played rook c8, b6 to stop the opponent from taking our pawn, and we really just activated all our pieces, targeting a weakness in the white position. Bishop to f6 was not the right way about it. I have to imagine even moves like e5 are fine to sack the pawn off center and then to create some sort of attack. But after bishop d2, bishop f6, our opponent does play a4, trying to strike back at our two pawns over here. We played e5, and after they chose to push their pawn, we snapped off the pawn in the center. We traded a rook. Then now they could have traded into the endgame, which is also going to be losing for them. We do play bishop captures d4, and then there's no way this pawn is going to get through. However, our opponent took back with the bishop, so we took our free pawn. They played rook to b1, creating some threats here. And what I was talking about is if I were to play the move early, like rook to c2, I was a little bit nervous about a move like a captures b6, because then after bishop captures b6, I was worried about tactics on here, like maybe a move like bishop to e3, where you can't take the bishop because you're going to hang back rank mate. But we didn't go into that line. We played h6, and it says that we really should have just taken this pawn. A captures b6, bishop captures, and we activate our rook onto the second rank. After b3, we found f5 with trying to threaten f4. After rook e1, the move, I have to imagine, is still probably g5 to create this big threat. The engine's best line is actually for us to immediately play f4. And the bishop has to make a decision. They probably have to play bishop to h4, and then after g4, the bishop is completely trapped. We can get into this position here, and there's no way for white to fight through. And if they were to take, we then have bishop captures f2, winning the rook. So we did miss that in a little bit of time trouble. Instead, we played king to f7 to stop the rook from coming in. After rook d1, we played g5. They checked us. We attacked the rook, and then they just left the rook hanging. So we punished them by taking the rook. We take some free pawns. We start pushing our pawn to promotion. And after rook to f1, which is going to win the bishop, our opponent played on a few more moves. We just played a pretty punishing move, one that just stops people in their tracks, and we get a win. So thank you everyone so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead, leave a comment below. If you like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video, and then finally check below and make sure that you're subscribed, and that's going to help you from missing any of my future content. And on that note, I will see you guys on the next episode.